Andy, I don't think we lost any listeners when they finally realized what the two of us look like on our first video podcast last week. I mean, you can still hear us audio wise, but I don't think we lost any listeners looking at the demographics. This is our second now video podcast. I'm Dave Pounder. You're Andy Jabor.
Sure.
Andy, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here, Dave. I'm always excited to be here with you in the mornings to record these. Thank you. I did notice, now folks can see the time when they watch the video when we record these. So we're glad to be here up and early for America, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's dedication. I mean, you can see that 5:30 time stamp, and you're like, man, these guys really must love what they're doing. Either that, or they're just, well, we won't go down that path, Andy. I don't know. All right, so we can see it, Andy. I've got a Guild shirt on today. It's like Oktoberfest. It's the back says Oktoberfest.
One of the best things about fall, Oktoberfest.
Yeah. So I mean, so you were in Germany. Did you go to Oktoberfest?
Oh, well, so we did Oktoberfest-ish events around that time, but coincidentally, perhaps we were always in the field or deployed during actual Oktoberfest. So, so our actual like full-on celebration was limited. My wife and I did get to go to a few events, and then really sort of from Oktoberfest, you enter that German holiday market time, which is just a continued celebration of food, alcohol, and celebration, and it's awesome. I mean, it's a the German Christmas market is just a super fun experience. You've got your warm glühwein out there, keeping your belly warm, having a good time. Everybody's just, it's such a great environment. So yeah, it's some Oktoberfest, more just celebration of the culture, and it's a great country, great people.
Yeah, I think Europe is, you can't say it's underrated because everyone loves to go, but I do think it's underappreciated. I mean, for exactly those things. It's like we lived over there for a couple of years, and the kids just love to be able to do the things we lived in a small German village,
Yeah.
and it was just like the things you had there, you could bike to, and you could do it, like you could walk to the grocery stores, where every town had a grocery store. That's not like it is here. You don't have the huge strip. I mean, you still do have those strip malls and those big anchor stores in places,
Different.
but largely speaking, your community is your community, and I think that's really cool. And
Yeah.
we lose some of that here, but I don't want to rail against that. Andy, we do have exciting news. I mean, the Speaker of the House, we finally have a Speaker of the House. I mean, this
Yeah.
is amazing. I mean, there was some more shady deals over the weekend, I think, and even early this week, but finally they have a Speaker of the House. What do you think?
I think, I don't know Congressman Johnson very well. I think I'm glad that the Republicans were finally able to identify somebody and select somebody. So congratulations to Representative Johnson. A good article in Reason Magazine, just sort of talking about him and a little bit of background on him, and maybe some things to look for in a speakership. I'll show the link for that in our notes. But what I thought was interesting, Dave, there's a few folks that came forward as candidates, really, that were going through the process. Two of them from the state of Louisiana. So good job, Louisiana. It's a state I like to make fun of from time to time, but here we are, and two guys came forward from the state as leaders. Virginia's got to get in the game here, right? We've got some Republican congressmen, and none of them were fighting for that leadership position. Yeah, I'd like to see Virginia get somebody in the fight there. So hey, congratulations to the state of Louisiana. Congratulations to the Republican Party for ending the circus. We'll see if this guy can hold on to his job for any reasonable amount of time. And hey, at the end of the day, hopefully he's a good speaker. Hopefully he puts some good process in place to run a more cooperative, effective, proper House. And hopefully it's not just continued divisiveness and maybe another guy that gets fired by his own party. We'll see. Best of luck to Mr. Johnson, the Republican Party, and Dave, all of America.
Yes, all of America, and so now we can finally move forward with our day to day as if this was the drama has unfolded. So, Andy, that's a good starting point. Let's go into the sports check-ins. Andy, you've had some time to recover. How are you feeling, just in general? The Detroit line. I mean, I do think you've got a pretty good schedule that's coming up, but have you recovered? Are you ready for this week?
Yeah, so on the sports team check-in, I'm gonna do a little personal sports check-in later, Dave. But on the sports teams check-in, look, I'll keep it simple. Lions had, like we talked about earlier this week, they got their teeth kicked in. It happens. Over it. Coming up Monday night against Raiders. When we record the next podcast, Dave, the Lions will be coming out of a terrific home win against the very not good Las Vegas Raiders. I am not a fan of their coach, Josh McDaniels, not a great coach. I'm not a fan of any of those Patriots coaches, to be honest. And I think that the Raiders are not a great team. Jimmy G, hey, maybe the best looking guy in NFL history. Pretty mediocre quarterback. So if he's back, or I forget who their backup is, either way, unless the Lions really come unprepared, which I do not believe they will. I think Dan Campbell's going to have them very fired up for this game. The Honolulu Blue is going to be, very loud and proud Monday night, and the Lions will cover the spread. So wait, we're talking about gambling earlier this week, Dave. If you're making your parlay for the weekend, take the Lions. They got it.
There you go. Yeah, I was sharing your things about Josh McDaniels. Some people just, look, they may be good offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators. They just don't deserve to be head coaches, and especially repeatedly deserve to be head coaches.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I think we have enough track record on this guy to know that he's not a good coach. And so maybe great offensive coordinator, but you also had the six-time Super Bowl winning MVP or Super Bowl winning quarterback at your disposal as well. So, how much do we really want to give credit to some people? So let's just be real.
That whole team. I'll say real quick. I think it often gets overlooked there, Dave. I think everybody kind of rode an excellent team for a long time. I think everybody looked a lot better. Brady. Look, there was a time when I hated Brady because he kept on winning and I didn't like it. but he really was a great leader and quarterback, no doubt about that. But it wasn't even just Brady. I mean, you got to look at that team. Brady, Gronk, Edelman, Amendola. I mean, and then they went through a phase where every free agent that wanted to land somewhere, every good player could go to New England and have a continue great career. It was just a great team for a long time. And it wasn't, you can't, Belichick, good coach, maybe. I mean, he's getting beat up pretty bad right now, even though he beat the Bills because they suck. But, that entire team was just, everything came together really well. And I'll give Belichick credit because he held that thing together. But individually, none of those parts are nearly as good as the whole. Brady wasn't as good in Tampa. Matt Patricia was an absolute train wreck when he came to lead Detroit for a few years. Josh McDaniel, like I said, he's done a couple rounds now as a head coach, not very good. So anyway, we could talk that all day, but a great team. They had a great run, but it was a total team effort, more than any one man for sure.
Yeah, it is. I think you're spot on with a lot of things. I think, I don't want to talk any more about the Patriots. Let's just move on. We'll do some other things. From my side, Andy, I'll be honest, I'm kind of in the same boat. Penn State plays Indiana this week. It should be a pretty comfortable week. I am excited to see if they can make any adjustments on offense because I think it was just really pathetic last week. And so we'll see how they adapt there. I don't even know who the Cowboys are playing. Frankly, that's where I'm at on my Cowboy fan. I'll obviously watch the game when it comes on Sunday, but it just doesn't consume my way. But I will say anything else on the sports front, Andy, because otherwise I want to move to another topic where I'm officially out on. So,
well, Dave, I can come back to my sports topic later. I want to hear what you're out on.
Okay, so I'm out. I'm declaring today, Andy. I'm out on Marvel. It was a great run, over 30 movies. The last several have not been very good. The TV shows, I liked the original first season of Loki. I thought it was really creative and had an interesting part. I tried watching it the second season. I just can't. I could barely make it through one episode.
Really?
The stories are too complex. The stories are too intertwined. I just want to, when I watch something, I want to just be able to watch and enjoy it. And if I find myself asking too many questions, if I find myself wondering or updating my wife, who's like, who's this person again? Why are they important? Like that's not fun for me anymore. And I just don't feel that overwhelming urge anymore to say, oh my gosh, I have to watch this latest movie. I'll wait for it to come out on streaming. I'll wait for it to, if it should even, if I have time to even watch it, but I'm just not there anymore. And I think it's a little bit sad because I did enjoy those, but maybe it's about right too. And I know this runs contrary to what I was saying about Ahsoka because I really enjoyed some of the backstory there.
Yeah.
If Star Wars does 5 more of those, then I'm going to be out on that too. But right now, I think I'm just over all the interconnectedness. I'm done with I would love just to have a single movie that didn't necessarily have the end scene credit scenes where how it showed me how it was connected to something else.
Yeah.
I just want to watch something, Andy.
Just I want to be entertained, right?
I
And
want to
it's
be entertained.
yeah, no, I mean that's a fair point. I told you, we passed on our Disney membership a while ago because of just the same thing. Kind of, it wasn't as fun as it used to be. But I couldn't help but think of as you're sort of talking about, some of your comments there. You're starting to sound like a good old man in some respects. It reminds me of going to movies with my dad. We didn't see a lot of movies together. But my dad would go to the movies on occasion. I remember going and seeing John Candy in The Great Outdoors. And
Oh
like
yeah.
with my dad was always entertaining because he had no idea what was going on. And he constantly asking you what just happened. So you're like trying to watch a movie and explain what just happened. And it's just chaotic. And I think it's the same thing with a Marvel movie. And if you haven't explained the backstory and each character as you go, it's like you can't watch and enjoy the show or the movie. And it takes some of the joy out of it. I think you're right. It becomes too interwoven and too complex. Like, just I just want to sit back and be entertained, without having to think for a half hour or whatever, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. And some of that is gone with these complex interwoven storylines.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, and look, I know comic books are that way, so that's the way, but maybe that's why I was never like fully vested and into comic books as much as other people are. So I'll just leave it there, Andy. We'll see what happens coming up, but it does kind of lead into some of these topics I want to talk to you about,
All
Andy.
right. All right, let's go.
So look, I want to try, so we have the top of mind and all that other stuff, but I want to hit you with a couple rapid fire things and get Andy's take on some of these questions. And the first one kind of talks to this whole movie genre. So, when we were younger, and again, get off my lawn, I've got the gray hair, all that other stuff. But when we were younger, Andy, especially that late 80s, early 90s timeframe, you had Batman, the first Batman movie come out. You had Indiana Jones. You had a lot, even like a movie like Twister. You had a lot of these high budget movies that were set up to come out in the summer. It was a blockbuster. You would go and watch it. You would watch it several times. I feel like that era is gone, Andy. What happened to that movie block? I mean, look, last summer we had Barbie, we had Oppenheimer. I don't consider like those are good movies, and they made a lot of money, but those were not like the action blockbuster. We don't have that action blockbuster anymore, Andy.
Yeah.
Where do you think we've gone here?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one is sort of moods change and interests change. I think kind of the action hero, right? Sly Stallone and Arnold and some of those other guys. There's still things kind of like it, but not the same, right? You still have, sort of like The Rock and Fast and the Furious and things like that. They're out there sort of doing these movies, but they're not the same. They're not as big and massive, and everybody's got to go see them as they used to be. I think you've seen some efforts to do, some more sort of big blockbuster movies, like, there's Avatar 2, and I'm not an Avatar movie fan. I refuse to see the second one because I fell asleep like 7 times trying to watch the first one. But you're right. I mean, I don't think there's the same enthusiasm. A lot, I think, between streaming and COVID definitely affected things. People like staying at home more than they used to. I don't think you have that same like everybody's got to go see this cultural moment. And I think that is a miss, because I think there's really something cool when people are watching some of the same shows and seeing some of the same experiences. It gives a sort of base that we can all relate to. And we're much more specialized and segmented in so many ways today, right? I mean, I've joked around about like my end of year Spotify playlist that has genres I've never heard of, right? There's like 3,000 genres that you so everything so specific, which is nice to some extent, right? You're into an individual and you're getting what you like in your show, your channels, your streaming service, your whatever. But at the same time, like we don't have that shared experience of that big summer blockbuster, right? People aren't wrapped around the corner to go see Star Wars for the fourth time, So it's just a different time, I think, which is in some ways a miss.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of that, I mean, it's a little bit of like the like TV and such, like must see TV. We talked about Seinfeld a couple of pods ago or whatever,
Yeah.
just briefly. But I remember being at Officer Basic School or my Officer Basic course, and on Thursday night, everyone watched Seinfeld. On Friday, we'd come in repeating the lines of
Yeah.
what we just saw, but everybody was watching that. And now there is, I think you hit on an interesting point. So many people have so many different interests, and now they can do that. You have so many different channels, you have different genres, you have and it's great for those artists who are, developing that kind of stuff. But it also does, you miss out on the cultural stuff, where the water cooler moments where you can sit around and talk about those the following day. So interesting part there. Okay, Andy. So that goes to another. So are you a go to the theater guy, or are you a streamer? Wait till it comes out on one of your services.
So again, I think COVID was a game changer here. I still love going to the movies and seeing a good movie, and I've got so many fun memories of going to the movies with my family. I love to buy tickets when they come out, and we get good seats, and we're there on opening night. I love that experience. I love going to theater. I love the Alamo Draft House. We can sit there and enjoy a good meal while you're watching a good show. I think it's an awesome experience, and I love to do that. But with my kids being adults, with, like you said, not as many like major must-see movies as I feel like there used to be. It's pretty cozy to sit on the couch by the fire with with my wife and watch a movie. So we definitely decreased our going to shows live, but I still love going out, and whether it's a movie, or the theater or a comedy show, like I love that experience of going out there and having a good time in mass. I just think there's something fun about that. Again, I think I love individuality, but I also love the shared experience. I think there's something to that. So I'm pretty torn there. I'm a mix of both.
Okay. Yeah, I think this goes back to the previous question. Is like, if it's a blockbuster movie where I know there's going to be a lot of action and special effects, I want to see it in the big theater. I want to go to an IMAX theater and try to find it. It's just few and far between anymore. I don't know if we're really making those movies anymore, or if it's easier to just watch on Netflix. One of the movies I enjoyed, an action movie that I enjoyed, it was on Netflix. Extraction, I think, is what it was called, with Chris Hemsworth, with Thor. But I enjoyed those movies. But Netflix is on your TV and not going to be in that big screen. But that's where I'll draw that's where I'll put my money into, if it's something big like that. Otherwise, why not watch Barbie at home, or Oppenheimer? I know there's big special effects with Oppenheimer, but I do kind of feel like I'll wait for it to come out on streaming. It'll take a lot to draw me there anymore. So,
Yeah.
all right, Andy, what about comedies? Where are you at on comedies? And I'm talking. The comedies are really, if you really look at it, and there's that Jennifer Lawrence one that she just released out. It was pretty hardcore comedy that came out, but where she was hired to be somebody's girlfriend, and bring this child into a manhood. A lot of the things that we enjoyed growing up, they tried this here. It was relatively successful in the theaters. It's now on Netflix. Where are you at on comedies? Are you going to hit those comedy areas?
Yeah, I used to love him growing up, and I think back of like some of the incredible actors, right? I mean, you think of like Eddie Murphy and Steve Martin and Chevy Chase back from the 80s and early 90s, and I still enjoy. There's been a lot of others, right? Adam Sandler had a great run, right? Ben Stiller could entertain you in really goofy, stupid humor, But I would say I probably haven't been to the theater to see a comedy in a long time, right? I mean, so it's I don't know if it's there's less of them than there used to be. I mean, it's hard to reproduce something as corny as National Lampoons, right? And that series, right? But I still love them. I enjoy them, but I probably haven't watched one in quite a long time, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe part of that's having watched movies a lot with my children as they grew up, where some of the comedies weren't really appropriate for younger kids, and so I kind of maybe lost touch and disconnected a little bit during that time.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting with comedies because it's so easy to offend somebody in some place, in some form. And I think I wonder if some of the studios have just given up on, like, it's just not worth the backlash because I made one joke here and there. I enjoy comedy shows from time to time. I know you mentioned going to a comedy show as well, but for movie comedies, I have my staples, but I've tried to introduce my kids to those over the years, and some are hits and some are just clear misses. And you're like, but why don't you understand this is funny? This is great.
Yeah.
but you just can't make some of those movies anymore. And I think that comes to some of the problems that we were just talking about earlier. Okay, all right. So we went down the movie pathway, Andy. Here, I want to switch to we talked about this topic just a little bit on the earlier pod this week, the Michigan sign stealing
Yeah.
thing. Where are you at here? Like this is getting worse. There's a lot of evidence against this, and it does look like they were stealing signs, but do we care? Look, I mean, this is competition. I mean, shouldn't you be one? Look, you mean to tell? I get the whole. Please, nobody send me emails or send me a tweet about how against the rules this is. Everybody is trying to steal the other team's signs. It happens it happens everywhere. Why are we making such a big deal of it here, Andy?
Well, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, that's why, when you watch an NFL game, and a college game now, right? Everybody's covering their mouth and their play sheets are covered up and they're trying to, you're not revealing anything because they know they're being watched. It is, in one sense, part of the game. But at the same time, it's not the part of the game that you want to watch, right? You don't want somebody to win because they knew what play was coming because they cheated. You want them to win because they knew what play was coming because a linebacker read the formation, saw the movement, saw the shifting, recognized what was going on, and then came up and slammed the quarterback for a 5 yard loss. That's the kind of victory you want, right? You want that hard nosed Vince Lombardi, get on the gridiron, duke it out, may the best team win. Everybody lays, bloody and muddy and miserable and raw. Like that's the way you want them to win. So, while it's sort of, it is part of the game, like, it's part of the game. It's a crappy part of the game. I mean, and
Yeah.
so especially when you've got, when you're a big organization, you're continually at the top of the rankings, whether it's pros or college, when you're a high profile head coach that you want to say you're a great coach, then you shouldn't have to steal. You shouldn't have to cheat, right? And so even though it is sort of everybody knows it happens to some extent, doesn't make it right. Certainly isn't good. And if you're the best team in college football, or you're the best team in the NFL, right? Going back to the Patriots and some of the crap that they were involved with, right? Then win it because you're the best team. Go out there on the field, play the game, do your best, and may the best team win. I still love Vince Lombardi's "What does it take to be number one?" I've got a sign of that here in my office. It's just a good old school. This is how you get it done. This is what leadership and fighting and victory look like kind of statement. And that's, I think, what we want from our sports teams. We want hard nosed, smash mouth, win the game because you're the best team out there, or because you just fought harder that day. Football, not because I knew they were running up the gut that play. So I read their plays ahead of time. That's a weak man's victory. Weak
Yeah.
Harbaugh, weak man.
Yeah, for you, I do agree, like with what a lot of what you're saying here, Andy. And look, I know advanced scouting happens. I know people dig into the film. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah,
You should be like, hey, the middle linebacker's here, the corner's here.
yeah.
That means they're doing this, and we're gonna run that play. That's the type of game activity I want. Not that look, they have evidence of all of a sudden this guy is whispering to the defensive coordinator, they saw a sign or they saw something, and then everybody on the sideline is making a motion. And look, they could be doing a lot of things. They could have been cheering for somebody in the stands for all we know. I mean, just in the context of what we saw, but it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And so okay, good topic on that. Andy, last one I want to just really quickly hit is the DeSantis campaign
Yes.
has come out this
All right.
last week and started the Trump accident tracker, in which they are capturing gaffes made by the former president. This seems to be the last ditch effort by DeSantis to kind of make any traction, separate himself. He's not had a great campaign. It's been really rocky. What do you think of the accident tracker here?
I think it's entertaining because it's making fun of the guy I like to make fun of, by another guy that I like to make fun of. I mean, DeSantis is he's a dope. He's not a
Yeah.
good leader. He's very much the same divisive, lack of true beliefs and more. How do I divide people enough to get their vote kind of guy that Trump is, like many politicians are. So to see these two guys that were holding hands in Florida at different points to now just be going at each other the way they are, kind of funny. And DeSantis is just one more in the long history of American politics of you never want to be that presumptive nominee so far out ahead of the game, right? Because if
Yeah.
you look back at things a year ago, right? DeSantis had already been crowned the GOP nominee, right?
Right.
He'd been christened by Rupert Murdoch and the powers that be as their guy, and just nobody cares. And it's reminiscent of Jeb exclamation point.
I,
You know, a
yeah,
lot.
that's exactly where I was going to go. Jeb. Yep.
Yeah, you just never want to be that guy. And so it's interesting, people moving to interest around Nikki Haley, for example. I saw a picture of Mike Pence talking to like four senior Americans in a pharmacy the other day. Again, nobody cares, right? Mike Pence, you're not going to be the nominee. You can drop out. It's safe. Go back in the end, do something else. Same thing with DeSantis. Like, you're not going to be the nominee. This is funny. It's entertaining. Have at it, right? I love to see these wackos tear each other down, but it's not like nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I agree. I find it funny. It is interesting, but I think this is the beginning. Well, it's the end of the end here for DeSantis. I think we should be surprised if he's out in a couple months here. So, all right, Andy, those are a quick run around the world there on a couple different things. What other you had mentioned you had something else on the sports side that you wanted to check in on?
Well, can I just jump in with a couple more like news
Oh
articles?
yeah.
So since we're talking presidential politics anyhow, right? So a couple things. So interesting article in The Hill yesterday talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his lurch to the right, and his former campaign manager, very far to the left, left the campaign as RFK sort of tries to position himself as a middle ground viable candidate, right? Going to that general election, run as an independent candidate now. And here's the thing I think is interesting about the RFK campaign. I mean, look, in all likelihood, he will not be elected president, right? I could say that today. That could change. There could be some interesting things that happen to change. But in all likelihood, today, he won't be elected, right? He'll be one of the major two-party nominees because that's typically the way it's going to go. But let's just, with everything happening with Mr. Trump, let's just say that for some reason between now and next November, if he is not running anymore, right, by choice or other circumstance, and so you've got one of these other GOP nominees as a candidate who is not necessarily the choice of the party's Trump wing. Does RFK position himself to be sort of the guy that picks up the steam from Trump? Maybe, and that could be really interesting. So I thought that was really interesting one day. If I won't spend any more time on it, I'll share the link to that. A couple other items that I won't really get into today for time's sake. I'll quickly pivot to sports if that's all right. Can I jump into it? Because I've got
Andy, this is our podcast. It's not Dave's podcast. It's our podcast.
But Dave, again, as my senior, I have to respect you and follow your lead. And so thank you for granting me the opportunity to share. So two quick things. So one, you and I have both sort of basked in the glory of being quote tweeted by Arnold in the past, right? They're for guys like us, for dorks like us, somebody who really in a world of people that I don't admire, it's nice to have somebody that I can look up to and say, hey, he did a lot of things wrong, but he did a lot of things right. I like this guy. And so we've enjoyed being, the social media interactions. Well, yesterday I was in the Arnold Pump app and they drop a few articles a week, a few posts. And so I made a comment and got that, Arnold response. And I was like, hey, that's a good day right there. So I bask in the glory of that moment. I'll share an image of that. Badly written because as you know, I'm very hyper during the day, typing, going a million different directions. And so I jump into something, spend 30 seconds here or there and fat thumbs full of typos. But that's neither here nor there. Thank you, Arnold, for the response. Appreciate the dialogue. I'll share an image and a link there. But Dave, let me just real quick pivot. So I've done something yesterday that I haven't been wanting to do, but kind of was dragging on, finally pulled the trigger, and I'm being punished for it today. So you remember this from many years in our lives. I finally got myself a new rucksack, and I went out yesterday and did a good heavy walk through the streets of Leesburg, probably looking somewhat homeless to many people, probably looking kind of scary to others as I was sort of panting and marching along. It was awesome. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I haven't done that in a long time. Back when Dave and I, when you were in the military, we did a lot of marches, a lot of walking with backs on. But I tell you what, man, I'm paying for it today with some pretty sore legs. It beat me up, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to get out there and get a good sweat. That combination of weight resistance and cardio, I really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for a different type of workout, maybe throw a bag on, throw some weight in it, go out there and get some miles in. it's a more challenging 10,000 steps than your typical walk. So it was good looking back to incorporate that into my workouts now, and I'm excited to see how brutal that can be.
Yeah, I'm an avid walker now. I have not thrown on the rucksack as of lately. So did you get the A-frame one? Or you get a nice flat
Oh
one?
no, the old A-frame, for those that aren't familiar, that thing was metal and miserable, and it would always seem to find a way to dig into parts of your back and leave you
Of course.
scarred and bloody and wounded. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So no, they've got much more comfortable, civilian rucksacks now. They look military-ish, right? The colors they come in. I got a sand one because I enjoyed my time in the desert here and there, but it's a cool bag, but super comfortable. I threw in some clothes to make it full and cushion, and then I threw in a few metal plates to add the weight, and it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, Dave,
Yeah.
I'll be glad to send you the link from Amazon, and for others as well. You can order it and enjoy it, and we can all commiserate together. So
That sounds like an appropriate place to wrap up then, Andy, as you go and ice your legs and whatnot, as you get ready for the rest of the week here. Well, Andy, we've covered a lot of topics today. That was
a lot
good.
of ground.
A lot of ground. So best of luck this weekend for your Lions, or on Monday, I guess. We'll catch up next week. But best of luck, and we'll catch up with you next time, Andy.